I might have known Jerry Robinson many, many millennia ago. But fate took me in a different direction.
How did you get to Marvel? How did you get the time?
All right, the question is, how did you get to timely at that time? Like, so what was your path?
My path to timely was not terribly complicated. I was casting about for something to try and create something that would get me into the comic book business, which looked like a pretty good thing to latch on to. My problem was, however, that superheroes were very popular at that time. Batman, Superman, and Shadow, and who knows what else. And I could not put muscles in the proper places. So, you know, my ability really leaned towards the cartoony figures, and straight figures like superheroes is not something I figured I could compete with. So I went in the other direction and created something called Inferior Man, which is not terribly clever. It's just opposite of Superman. But this is in 1940, and I was pretty green at that time anyway. So I drew up. I simply drew Inferior Man, who was a skinny little accountant by day, and fancied that he was a crime fighter by night. And I drew him flying through the air with a couple of threatening-looking characters at the bottom. And I met somebody who said, Will Eisner is looking for people who can draw. Why don't you go see him? So I went up there, and Eisner was intrigued with this character, and he said, I'm going to hire you to do it as a filler in the comic books I'm producing, mainly military comics. And he decided that my little accountant should be turned into a military person, and so he became, he was involved in, I don't know, it's quartermaster, handing out uniforms. Of course, this kind of immediately blew my notions of where to go with this thing. And after a few attempts, Will let me go, and I was free for a while, and then I became a penciler for a man by the name of Chad Rothkopf, who was a remarkable inker, and I worked for him for $8 a week, and where I met another wonderful cartoonist, Alex Kotsky, who some of you may remember, but remarkable guy. And but after a while, I realized that doing the penciling for $8 a week, I'm producing about 8 pages a week. I'm getting $1 a page for this stuff. Maybe I ought to go out and look for penciling on my own. And I went to Stan Lee, and Stan looked at my stuff, and he had just taken over from Kirby, Simon and Kirby. And I was about 19, and Stan was about 17. And he grabbed the script out of the bin and threw it at me, and he said, draw this, and if you do it successfully, you can go on writing it and drawing it. And I did it for quite a while, and remained connected to Stan. You know, after that Squad Car Squad sort of ran out, Stan said, create some animal characters. So I created Silly Seal and Ziggy Pig. To a grown audience, this sounds like a ridiculous thing to admit. But those things were very popular at that time because Disney, Snow White, and the Seven Dwarfs, and Pinocchio, and all those things were big successes. So the comic books were successful.
save most of the questions for a Q&A in just a little while. I just want to have a couple more questions here. So how did that, you were doing all this humor workout, and you were doing some teen comics like Patsy Walker, and I believe, John, also you had a background in teen romance comics and that sort of thing.
I did 8 years of romance at DC, which aged me 10 years.
So is it safe to say that you sort of brought like a romance comic kind of sensibility to Spider-Man?
Actually, it turned out to be a very lucky thing. I don't think I had to serve 8 years of a sentence to do it, but I had to learn how to make pretty girls. The first romance I ever did for Famous Funnies, and Stephen Douglas, who's up in heaven in a special place, gave me $270 for this job I did. The girls looked like bony men. And it was so bad he never printed it. But hey, and he had a stack, I don't know if everybody knows, he had a stack of artwork, pages of artwork on his desk, all given to young artists, knowing he would never print those books. He's in heaven. The point is that, now I forgot what I was saying.
That when you took over the Spider-Man.
Yeah. So the thing is that it helped me with the female characters. When the female characters looked very impressive and attractive to the readers, for some reason they sort of adopted. And it gave me like the next 30 years of paid off my mortgage. I just was able to grow girls that way. It helped. The rest of the stuff, I don't think I was as good with superheroes as a lot of other guys, because I was an illustrator type, and everybody had toothpaste smile and a flawless complexion, and other people were doing villains and evildoers and superheroes, and I had to buck up and do that. I landed on my feet, and it was a very lucky break for me that I did those 8 years. Otherwise, I probably would have been out of work 10 years ago, or 10 years before.
Right. Well, I'd like to, Al. Let's talk about the folding, because I think I'd be remiss if we didn't actually talk about that. And to newer mad writers like myself, we look at something like the folding, and it's like, I wish I could come up with something that innovative and brilliant. How I know there's a story behind it. Can you get into that?
You mean with the fold-ins? Well, it's, I would preface it by saying that listening to John, to Jerry, and even to myself, we grew up in a time when we were really, I think, journeymen. The comic book business was going through stages and kept doing that for many, many years. And you had to be able to jump from one thing to another. I had to learn to draw pretty girls and Patsy Walker. I never drew a single pretty girl before that. I never met one. But we had to learn to do a lot of things. And what that does is it not only hones your skills. I mean, Jerry did something called Still Life, which was basically humor, well-drawn humor. And then along with Batman and all the other things he's done. So we all had to know how to do a lot of things, and what